since I entered medical school in Nairobi. I thought that I should take a few minutes to share with you some of the things, because my class of 78 is the best class that this country has ever produced. And I have been their chairman throughout. We graduated 75 of us. There's 50 of us left, serving in 19 countries. The topic that you've given me can be long and can be short, but since you've given me only 15 minutes, it means that it must be short. And I'll make it even shorter. The issue here is Vision 30 and investment. What do we do in 8 years? There's something unique about Vision 30 and SDGs, because they are all focusing on doing things by 2030. And they're all focusing on impact. So by 2030, we must have impact. So whatever we do in the next 8 years must be impactful. Secondly, you mentioned the word investment. And when we talk in this sector and in others, we seem to confuse investment with spending. And I am not a fan of the Abuja declaration of 15%, because that 15% does not make sense, and it was only about spending. And in this sector, we have never been shy in spending, but we have been very, very poor at investing. And if we look at Vision 30, and if we have 8 years to go, it cannot be another 8 years of spending. It must be 8 years of real impactful investment. So what are the 1, 2, 3, 4 areas in which I personally think that we must invest? And investment, as somebody had said here, is not about money. In fact, I dare say we shouldn't even ask government to put more money in here. We should ask ourselves what we do with the money. So first and foremost, in the next 8 years, we must commit and absolutely do efficient things. It's how much do we get out of the Kenya shilling for this sector, and who is held accountable if we don't get it? I repeat that. Who's held accountable if we don't get that amount from the Kenya shilling? So let's take the first of the building blocks. In governance, Kenya has a beautiful devolved system. I believe that devolution is good for this sector, and devolution is an engine for achievement of Vision 2030 in health, but only if it is made to work for this sector. The last 10 years, we've seen far too many contradictions between the center and the counties, and we cannot afford it for the next 8 years. First and foremost must be the release of the budget to the counties in a timely manner. It's not the amount. Get it there. Because we cannot have a situation where the financial year starts in July and the first allocation is received in October. Health doesn't work that way. You have lost that year if that is what we're going to continue to do for the next 8 years. So whoever becomes president in August this year, the thing that he must do is give the counties their money in time. It's only then that you can start talking about ring fencing, because you can't ring fence what you don't have. And what we have at the moment in terms of giving the money late means that right now, as we are in May, the counties have not received their money for January. And the treasury is already closing. That cannot happen in a country that wants to impact by 2030. And this is not rocket science. The fact that we're allowing this thing to happen in this sector means that we do not want our people to get that radiotherapy in time, that medicine in time, that cesarean section in time. So if the money doesn't come in, how will the medicine come in? How will the surgeon do it in time? So that, Madam, from Vision 2030 must be a cabinet emergency undertaking. We cannot run this sector this way. So devolution, yes, but give it the money. Under governance, we have talked here about public and private. The governance of this sector must change drastically for it to be a comfortable place for the private sector. Yes, I know that a lot has changed in the last 20 years and I've been part of it, but still the private sector is seen by far too many people who lead the public sector as an irritant. It is still seen far too often as only a profit maker. No. The private sector must be an equal part. And this country, Ministry of Health, must remain totally unapologetic for working hand in hand with the private sector. And you will see why I think that that one must be given more priority in Vision 2030. There's a statement that was made here that private sector seems to like other sectors, but not health. That they want more lucrative areas. That is not true. It's not true at all. Because historically, there is no sector in this country that has been supported by the non-state actors than health. In fact, the non-state actors have been responsible for virtually everything that has been innovative. Where have the church groups been? They've been in this sector. They were not on roads. They were not on electricity. They were providing healthcare as partners to the public sector. But have they ever always been treated as partners? Absolutely none. Look around you. This place called Upper Hill in Nairobi. In East Africa, that is a Silicon Valley of health. Within 2 square miles, there is everything. I was surprised yesterday that virtually every building in Upper Hill area of Nairobi has doctors' offices, imaging, pharmacies, and everything. I was surprised that some buildings have 3 MRI machines and CT scans in one building, not brought in by the government, but brought in by the private sector. So if you look at the amount of investment in that place, and you ask Vision 2030 or the Ministry of Health, that have you ever called those people there to one meeting to give them an idea that instead of having 3 of you in one building here, maybe we can work with you to take one of your machines to Garissa and incentivize you to go to Garissa? Have we ever had a meeting with them? Why don't we make it? the rule rather than the exception. So we have more than willing investors in sector. 2, of the 40 plus manufacturing plants for medicine in East Africa, 39 or more are in Kenya. They have brought their money here in Kenya against all odds. But then, none of them is in the secondary counties, in the secondary cities. In fact, if we are lucky, the first one later next year may be Med Aditus opening in Kisumu. Have we ever incentivized these people to go outside of Nairobi? Because medicine can be manufactured in Busia too. It will still taste the same. So why should they all be here in Nairobi and not open up elsewhere in the country? So to start seeing this sector as one that only goes private when there is profit, I think is not fair. And it is not true. So, number 1, change governance. Number 2, change the way we do data. Digitalizing. This sector is still too manual. Electronic medical records, we've talked about it. We have everything. For one country that has one of the best e-systems anywhere in the world, I'm surprised that this sector has not made this a priority. Yes, we say that we want e-health and give it priority, but which facility will you go to that is close to being paperless? Not even the biggest private ones here, because we are still too comfortable with writing things on paper. Now, if we don't digitalize, then nothing else is going to move. Definitely not health insurance, because you can't run universal social health insurance on the back of the envelope. It has to be digital. Every Kenyan by now should have his own unique identity number, so that they are not treated in 10 places in one day, picking medicine all over and nobody knows. Now, if every Kenyan can be identified by Safaricom with their cell phone, then how come we cannot accelerate that in this sector? Digitalization is an absolute if the next 8 years is going to take us anywhere. And it's not going to cost us much, because we already have the infrastructure that's there. Go to Huduma Center in this country and you ask yourself, wow, where am I? Because with your identity card there, you can do anything. But why aren't we doing it here in the health sector? We are waiting for 8 years to end and we will not be there. So digitalize as a priority. 3, infrastructure. Kenya has more than enough brick and mortar in terms of building. Let's do a moratorium on building more. Let's use the spaces that we have efficiently. Whether they are floors in the waiting room or their operation rooms, we can do much more than them, than we are doing at the moment. And we can use them 24/7. We can have shifts. Variant was here. How many of your machines work 24/7? They work 3 to 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then they sit. Why not do triple shifts and triple the number of patients that we are treating? Why are we always building new ones, but only using 1/3 of what we have in terms of their capacity? So infrastructure, moratorium on brick and mortar, and repair and work with what you have better. Already every Kenyan is within 5 kilometers of a health facility. That is before you put in the private ones, public ones. So if you put the two together, then we're actually spoiled for choice. The question is that, are they functioning the way they're supposed to? They are not. But then, you know why we build? Because that's the best way of getting rich. And we know how we build. They never get finished in 8 years. So if you're going to impact by the 8th year from today, then it can't be through building new structures. It must be through efficiently using what we have at the moment. So with a moratorium on brick and mortar, and that money saved, let's look at the other side of infrastructure, which is equipment. I'm glad I sat in toward the tail end of the discussion on the MESS project. I wish you people gave me time to give you the story of MESS. Because I brought the idea in the country, and I know what happened and what didn't happen. It is the best thing that can ever happen in Africa. We have no business buying things and then not maintaining them. Lease, squeeze function out of the machine and let them go with it once you have used it. And this is what we were supposed to do with MESS. The only thing that messed us up was that some of the contracts were not diligently done. It was not the idea, it was diligence. And you don't throw a baby with the bathwater when you know that this is the baby and this is the bathwater. So we know exactly what was there. Secondly, there are certain items in health that you can't go on a lease with. Like, for example, why do you want to go and lease scalpels for surgery? That doesn't make sense. So select the things that you can. And if you look at MESS diligently, then you see that in the area of imaging, for example, it did wonders. What people didn't tell you is that the only reason why CT scan and MRI is affordable in this country in the private sector is because the public sector ones are working through MESS. Because the moment they started working, the private sector cost fell to the bottom. And that's it. Why do I say that? I say that because the main driver of cost in health in Africa is not the private sector. It is the inefficiencies in the public sector. The private sector will lower prices. The day the 10th floor of Kenyatta National Hospital is working and admitting people at affordable cost, Nairobi Hospital will close. They will not charge you that. But these prices are high because they know that the public sector is not working. The only reason why you have so much private sector facilities around Kenyatta Hospital is because Kenyatta Hospital is inefficient. And they know that those guys will go there and will come back and look for me. If Kenyatta Hospital starts mopping up and drying this one, those guys will go elsewhere. This is common sense. So let's use somebody's money to buy the equipment and use our money to buy the service. This is fundamental. So go into the lease arrangement with your eyes open and get it done. Next thing that we must do for Vision 30 to be realized is human resource. Put our well-trained people to work. Right now, they're not working. Kenya is one of the few African countries that dares send its president to the UK to ask the Queen's government to employ its nurses. And I repeat that. Our president was in the UK and came back and told us that he has jobs for our nurses. Because we are producing too much and we can't employ them. Do you know the data? We produce 10,000 nurses every year. Probably one of the biggest successes in Kenya has been the MTC system. Every county right now has a medical training college. Out of the 10,000, the government can give jobs to no more than 1,000 in a year. Counties included. So where do 9,000 trained nurses in Kenya go every year? That's why I want to export them. But go to every county, go to every hospital, go to every facility. You will find that they have shortage of nurses. So what is this logic here? Where you're overtraining, you are underemploying, and you are exporting. If that is the model that we are working on for 2030, then I'm brave enough to say it won't work for Kenyans. It has to be something else. These young people can work here if we get them the salary. The question is that, how do we give them the salary? It's a question of a total relook at our human resource. A young doctor today completes medical school 3 months ago, and up to now they don't even know where they're going to do their internship. 6 months later, they don't know where they're going to do their internship. The skills are gone by that time. The enthusiasm that you enter with is gone. Is it something that we cannot solve? Can't we even have a national service arrangement where they start working immediately in facilities that are there? Because we have no shortage of sick people and we have no shortage of facilities. It's an absolute embarrassment that we cannot get these people to work, and then the best we can do is to teach them better English so that they can go and work in the UK. That is not a vision. A vision must be to make them work here. In human resource, I've said this before and I'm repeating, that in Kenya, given the structures of money flow and payment, consultants should not be employed on a permanent and pensionable basis. They should be on part-time contracts that allows them to spread their wings and serve in those many places where they want to be the whole day. That is what's happening in the UK that we live copying. and you'll get the most out of them. If we contracted groups of consultants, a group of gynecologists who are in Turkana, 10 of them, but they're one group, and they are giving you coverage the way you want, not you running after them between Kenyatta and Nairobi Hospital, but they are there. Not only would you be able to get the best out of them, but there was a lot of job satisfaction. That would save money then for you to pay the younger doctor better and pay the nurse better. Did you guys know that Kenya is unmatched in the training and production of paramedics, lab people, technologists, radiographers? We are totally unmatched in terms of that production. But it does not reflect in the quality of paramedical services that we give. So even when we have it, we have not used it well. 8 years to come, we have to change and get these things working and working to the best of our ability. Finally, I'll give you an example. Just as I said that the 2 square kilometer radius around Upper Hill here is the best endowed in terms of expertise and technology in East Africa. I come from Western Kenya. I chair the committee of eminent persons, advisory to the 14 governors on COVID. And I found something very interesting. The 14 counties are home to 1/3 of the population of Kenya. The center would be Kisumu, but it goes all the way western part of Rift Valley, Kisii, and so on. Within 50-kilometer radius of Kisumu, there is 9 schools of health sciences. 9. Maseno, Masinde Muliro, Kisii. Maseno has 4 schools: medicine, pharmacy, public health, nursing. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Great Lakes University, Uzima Medical School, Alupe. That number within 50-kilometer radius. Even in Europe, you can't achieve that number of schools within 50-kilometer radius. But something interesting, if you look at the health delivery and the quality of health delivery in that area, it's terrible. In other words, having schools, universities, schools of health sciences does not even seem to impact on the health and the care that we give to our people. Which makes me start wondering, why do we open schools? And what should the impact of these schools be, if not the health of our people? The answer to that must be that whatever investment we do in the next 8 years must be absolutely patient-focused. We must not just invest for the sake of investing. It must be focused on our people. And I'll give you 2 examples of how that investment makes a difference. NHIF. We have already passed a law in this country that it is mandatory. But just as we made motor car insurance mandatory and we implemented it, you can't be on Kenyan roads if you don't have it. We must do the same then for being on the Kenyan roads when you're not on NHIF. That must be something that we achieve in the first 2 years of the 8 that are remaining. Because the day every Kenyan is covered, everything changes. The health-seeking behavior changes, the investment patterns change, and you'll be surprised that all these guys who are crowding here in Upper Hill will now want to be in Busia and Bungoma because everybody has a capacity to pay. That is the game changer. That is a transformation. And I would therefore like to see us investing in NHIF. For us 50 years, we have fought for NHIF to be made mandatory. It has been war. Now that it is there, I'm surprised that we don't have people in the streets with placards saying that, where is my card now? Because it is mandatory. And doing that is not magic. Because we know that there are 3 categories of people that are to be covered. First, formal employment. People in formal employment already are 100% covered. So that leaves you with 70% of the population that is in the informal sector. That 70%, 40 are indigent. Those ones must be paid for by the state. So let the state take up that, county and state, immediately. So 40 plus 30 formal sector, that's already 70%. Any county that has 70% of its population under insurance cover is achieving universal health coverage. Because the other 30% that is informal but non-indigent, we can always bring rules and means of getting them on board. That's an area of investment that we must do now so that by 2030 we achieve both the SDG and Vision 2030. My appeal to you, ladies and gentlemen, especially for those of you who are younger than me, this journey does not require the faint-hearted. This journey is not for people who pat themselves on the back with figures and data that you cannot back up. You can't lie in health because disease knows how to catch up with you. We must truthfully provide to our people what we can. And as a country, God really loves us. It has given us a population that is manageable. It has given health workers that we now dare export. It has given us internet, ICT capability, which is the envy of many. We are the only country in the world that can transfer money M-Pesa style without anybody taking anybody else to court. If our people can trust their money on the phone, that phone can be used effectively for them to trust their health and healthcare through it. We are on the verge of something much, much bigger than we believe. Let's invest, not just spend. Thank you.
A better round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much, Prof. Now we understand the huge knowledge that you provide for us. I'd like to call upon Dr. Professor Frank Wafula to present a small token of appreciation from Strathmore University Business School and the wider KHF community. So kindly, just here, yes. No, just downstairs. And also I'd like to call upon The members who came from Addis Ababa, Dar es Salaam, Kigali, Rwanda, and Entebbe, you will take a photo session. Once he issues the gifts, you'll take a photo session at the end. So I'll call upon Dawit Moses, Samuel Ogil. Dr. Professor Frank, you can proceed.
Yeah, just to say, and I have had a lot of bosses. I think Khama is probably one of my favorite bosses over the years. And just to say one thing about why I consider him a very strong mentor. Khama, I don't know whether you remember this, but sometime in 2014, you and I took a flight to London to the Gates Foundation offices because Gates wanted to invest in Africa in businesses that could reach the poor, and they were interested in slums. So they set up a steering committee which was supposed to advise on that. And I'll never forget the one thing that Khama told a very high level team. He told them, please don't come to fragment a system and invest to create poverty. If you're going to come to Africa and invest, you need to invest in sustainable businesses, even if it's within slums, because we are living at a point where everybody needs to know that sustainability matters more than aid. And I think that caused a ripple effect that resulted in, I think, the foundation going back and rethinking their funding strategy. I was very impressed. I was a recovering academic coming into the development world, but I learned very fast that sometimes you can actually be very firm in your resolve and not just take free money, but ask that the money comes responsibly. So thank you for being a great mentor to most of us at the World Bank during those days. And it's an honor to present you this on behalf of Strathmore.
A round of applause. So I'd request Dr. Ian Clark, Professor Katie, Dr. Nazir, Dr. Kiendele, just on the edge, take a photo with Professor Rogo, Professor Frank as well. The delegation that traveled from Ethiopia, Tanzania, Juba, Dr. Kendiede, kindly join as well. Dr. Emmanuel Togun. Thank you so much. So at this particular point, we'll go to the final joint plenary session that we are going to have a discussion on. I'd like to call upon the moderator for this session, Dr. Lyndon Marani,